Did you set?
Yep.
And
That's right.
We'll just get it set up and then I can do, if you're stuck out there.
wheelchair or autist. And each year we make fundraiser. We raise usually between $125,000 and $150,000
You need
for that. Actually, of ours. We
Run
created
the
that
house.
60 years ago. So I'm glad to be
We're coming up to
for business tip.
the announcements
And,
next,
you're always
but that's a
welcome to
PowerPoint.
take a look.
All right, thank you very much. Also, we have Rotarian Mike Lightburn, who is the Club of East Nassau, who's visiting with us today as well. Now turn our attention to those on Zoom. Do we have any visiting Rotarians on Zoom?
I can't see it. This is a PC. I don't know how to work PCs. Remember, I'm an Apple person.
Any visiting Rotarians on Zoom or guests? Do we have any guests on Zoom with us today? All right, I guess we're all home full. But once again, just like to say welcome. Thank you for being here with us today at our meeting. So I just have a few announcements. Of course, the district conference is happening this week. They are on the cruise. The president, as well as members of our club and members from other clubs, Bahamas, the district conference on the cruise attending that. There have some training sessions taking place for the incoming board. And I will move me right along to my next announcement. The Rotary Club of Nassau will be hosting its changeover ceremony. That would be on Thursday, the 25th, sorry, Friday, the 27th of June. We'll be hosting a change over ceremony right here at Nassau Club. So if any members who need a ticket and haven't gotten those, I have tickets for you. Or if any of our guests you have shared with permits, I have tickets for you that you can come celebrate, be a part of it with us. And the tickets are only $75. Only $75. Only $75. So I just encourage you to just please support us in this regard. Also celebrate with us. Additionally, Friday of next week, which will be the 16th of May, Rotary Club of East Nassau, the Rotary Club of Nassau will be having a joint meeting celebration of East Nassau 62 anniversary since being chartered. RCN being a chartered sponsor club for them. They just wanted us to come together to celebrate, take a little stroll down memory lane, so to speak, and just have a good time. So I encourage you in that regard as well. Moving right along, we have a speaker is with us today. Without any further delay, I'll go ahead and speaker. Our speaker today is Jasmine Pauly. She is a marine conservation strategist, climate action veteran dedicated to transforming complex environmental challenges into actionable solutions. Her work empowers Bahamian communities to safeguard their natural heritage through initiatives ranging from coral reef restoration to shaping climate policy. A dynamic speaker and advocate, Jasmine has moderated global forums, designed grassroots experimental education programs, and inspired the next generation of ocean stewards. It's a little fun fact, although she is an advanced open water diver, and her work seamlessly bridge science and community action, whether training locals in reef rescue techniques or advising policymakers. Jasmine believes that conservation isn't just about protecting nature, it's about empowering people to see themselves as part of the solution. So please join me, welcome Ms. Jasmine Foley.
Afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting us on this topic. Today we will be diving into the interest of our library. I like to think about micro phone systems and like that on some heroes. I do believe that our schools do get a lot of attention and our beaches, but our micro do play a very vital role to our municipal systems in the Bahamas. So I am Jasmine Foley, and I'm representing our organization, which is the Bahamas Reef Environment Educational Foundation, and it's for short, it's called REEF. And like I said, my topic is exploring our my roof peaks and wetlands. Okay, so before we get into the micro peaks, let me just tell you a little bit about our organization. It was founded in 1993 by Sir Nicholas Neville, and he was interested in he was more concerned about the declining of our marine species, particularly our Nassau grouper and our spiny lobster. So he decided to form this foundation that focuses on educating our Bahamian people, particularly school-age children, because he knew that grassroots conservation would really accelerate a lot of conservation. And in this picture, you can see one of our best scholars. We actually have one of our best scholars today. That's a program we have at Greece. He's in the picture. We're taking some kids fishing at Bonefish National Park in the southern part of the province, and it's just a wonderful mangrove wetland. I wanted to mention that picture. And we were just there last week and we had kids snorkeling mangrove forests. So our mission is to promote the conservation of the human marine environment that sustains our way of life. Because we believe that an educated public will take action to address some of these concerns that harm our natural resources. And we know that we depend heavily on our natural resources, especially being such an island nation in Bahamas. So my objectives for this presentation is just to describe the characteristics of a mangrove creek and wetland, list and describe some of the wetlands we have here. We're going to identify some mangrove trees, and we're going to go over its importance and some organisms that make up the mangrove wetlands, and then also we're going to go over some zonation and some ways we can conserve our mangrove wetlands. So a mangrove wetland characteristic is normally, well, in the Bahamas, we have two types of wetland. We have something called an ephemeral wetland, which sometimes it has its dry season and sometimes it has its wet seasons, but sometimes we just have continually wet wetland, which, as we can see in the picture here, they tend to have shallow water, brackish to saline. They're salt-loving trees, not really, but they're salt-tolerant. But what's so special about mangroves are they adapted to live in environments that can withstand changes in tide, high salinity, and high sun intensity. And then they also have the soil has very low oxygen and they have very unstable soil. So all the mangroves that make up our mangrove wetland have certain features which other plants don't, which makes them very, very special. So we have two types of wetlands in Bahamas. We have like an inland pond or an inland wetland or pond, and as you can see, big pond, which is right by field. And then the other picture is just a saline pond, which you can see something like or like in a salt pond. And then also the next type of mangrove wetland, we have our creeks. Wetland creeks are connected to the ocean, whereas pond is like a closed system. So we would see a little bit more biodiversity in this, and that just means we'll have a greater variety of plants and animals and fish that will be living in a creek, and it's very connected to the ocean. So as we go on, if we were approaching a mangrove wetland in the water side, we would first encounter the red mangrove, because when it comes to zone, you find the red mangrove mostly in water. And as we can see here, that they are very distinguishable by their crop roots. And then also, I mentioned that coral is very low oxygen, it's very anoxic, so they have these breathing roots. And what you would see in the picture on the side is the lenticels, which will give the root, which will give the plant and the roots an ability to breathe, because the soil, like I said, is very oxygen, deoxygenated. And then also what's so special about these trees is most trees we know would produce seeds. However, the red mangrove produce this thing called a propagule, which is a seedling on the very tree that it's on. So it's a tiny tree before it drops off and creates a whole new plant. And that's what you would see is that pencil-like figure, the right. So, and then also we have our second mangrove. This would be the second one you would have in summer going in. So you're going into marsh, but still kind of low shallow waters. And you'll find this black mangrove, Abyssinian Germanans, and you can distinguish this by its bark, its dark colored bark. And then also, when we do carry the kids out, I always tell them that you can see them kind of sparkling into the water, because what's so special about this mangrove is that it purges all of the salt in the environment on their leaves. So it has a little glistening effect sometimes. And sometimes the kids get a little inquisitive and want to break the leaves, but that's another story. And then also, they also have a special type of root system called pneumatophores, which is a different type of breathing roots. In the previous slide, we can see that these are the little projections coming up, and they are actually the root systems of blackberry. And they have this fruit that looks like lima beans, and then they have these cute, very tiny, small, 4-petal flowers. And then we have the white mangrove. The white mangrove is Gentula racemosa, and they're further inland. They're still in marshy, but they are not as water tolerant as red mangrove or black mangrove. And sometimes they have these peg roots, which is also a type of breeding root. They're much smaller, and most red mangroves that I've been found in the farms, they don't have this peg roots because it's less pronounced in certain areas. But they do, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And they have, in the next slide, you'll be able to see that they have these nectaries on their petiole, and that would be those 2 dots on the side of the leaves. And that's what would attract the pollinators to these plants. And then also they do have salt glands that form this perfectly outlined structure on their leaves. And that's where they would purge their salt. And last, but certainly not least, the fourth species of mangroves that we have in the Bahamas is the buttonwood, also known as Cornucopus erectus. And it looks 2 ways, although they look differently, they're exactly the same organism, but sometimes it just appears differently. And this one is pretty common on the Bahamas. Sometimes people use it as hedging. It's salt tolerant, but this plant you can find mostly on land. And what's so special about this too is that it's the most terrestrial plant. And as we see in the next picture, this plant got its name because some of the seeds on the plant shaped like little tiny buttons, so they call it buttonwood. So, and this image just shows the different zone patterns of the mangroves, like with the red mangrove in water with depth. Then you'll get to the black mangroves, and as we move further inland, you'll get to the white mangrove, and then the dry terrestrial vegetation you find the buttonwood. So why should we even think about mangroves? So it has a lot of importance for mangroves. Number one, they do protect our shorelines. There are second events when it comes to hurricanes or any type of coastal erosions, or storm surge. Then also mangrove wetlands serves as reservoirs for water. So whenever there's raining, they act as flood prevention and flood control. And then also, if you are listening into the media, and came across climate change, they are very, very they are called amazing carbon sinks, and that's what carbon sequestration means. In the Bahamas, we produce so much, and we have such a great capacity with the carbon air that you know that right now our government is talking about trading carbon credits, and our mangrove ecosystems are one of the best mechanisms that pull carbon out of the air. And there's also one of the reasons that the Bahamas has such beautiful beaches is the roots filter and trap sediment. So it actually, before any land debris would make it to our oceans or to our beaches, the mangrove ecosystems filter the soil before it reaches there. So that's one of the reasons why we have a lot of plant beaches. And then it has a high biodiversity, a lot of plants and a lot of animals. And then also our mangrove ecosystems support our fisheries because they're the nursery system for most species of fish and crustaceans, a lot of economic important organisms. And then also like because it's a nursery, it's state. And then also, last but certainly not least, it's an amazing place to teach children about and adults about our ecosystem. It's amazing to go to, and just last week when we went there, just walking in the fish pond, it had this beautiful baby on eagle ray, and everybody was excited to see it. So it's a very exciting recreation, so tourism and education. And just going on to how does mangrove ecosystems actually break the wind energy and wave energy. This video shows that. So as we can see that there's a wave simulator, and as it goes through the mangrove ecosystem, on the other side, it's flat. That's how, even though when we think about wetlands, we think about soils, but mangroves are have adapted to be anchored deeply into the soil. So that's just one of the mechanisms how they prevent and bring some wave energy. Okay, so when I talk about mangrove biodiversity, these are just some common organisms that you find there. We do know we have our national birds of the flamingo, West Indian flamingo. Then we have our bonefish, which is a very important species. Do you have any bonefishers in the house? So we do know that bone fishing is a very important thing industry for the Bahamas and it's very small and brings a lot of tourism for our country. It's a sports fish. And then also food farm, like pintail ducks, live crabs, Nassau grouper, spiny lobster, and different sponges and coral. But most likely they'll be the juvenile stages, so they're very, very tiny, but it has most of the species in the mangrove ecosystem. So this just shows how everything is related. So like different photoplankton would produce oxygen, and then zooplankton will eat it, and then corals and the coral in the mangrove ecosystems will eat that, and then the other fish in that ecosystem would connect to the top predator, which would be like a shark or barracuda. So that just shows that there's a relationship between different organisms that live and in mangrove ecosystem. And this is just a bigger version of that. Mangroves are also an amazing spot for birds, insects, and different types of fish and crustaceans, like I would have mentioned. And as we can see from the runoff from the terrestrial vegetation, it captures all of that, it breaks it down, and prevents it from going into the. So at REAP, we do have REAP mangrove identification slates. Just in case you wanted to take your eco walk and eco tour, we do have these, and these are waterproof. So in case you wanted to take a stroll to one of our national parks, you'd be able to see some of these and have a guide with you. And let's get that.
There's a video.
So some of the threats we're experiencing in our mangrove ecosystem is number one, climate change. Climate change is this global phenomenon that's happening of the earth temperatures just rising significantly. I know with us, if we got too hot, we just turn on the AC or go into a cooler place, but plants and animals, sometimes they're forced to be in that situation, and if they don't adapt to the changing of the climate and the effects of climate change, then they won't be able to survive. And then also next threat to the mangrove ecosystem is habitat destruction. Over the years, mangroves have been the place for marinas, but obviously they have a better economic significance than being a marina. But a lot of places experience habitat destruction, and that can also happen from climate change as well, because climate change is causing hurricanes to be more frequent and the intensity to increase. And then also overfishing is another issue with threat to ecosystem, mangrove ecosystem. As we can see, each organism has a place within its food web. If we take too much of any product, it can cause a collapse in different organisms that are there. And then also another threat is pollution, which is the introduction of any harmful substance into the ecosystem. And lastly, we have invasive species such as casuarinas, lionfish, and what they do is they outcompete the natural species and make it less and less available. And so they have an invasive species tend to win. So that's an issue. So, and this just shows, the different tracks, like climate change, the hurricane, habitat destruction, and then also we have invasive species. That would be the lionfish, which is one of the biggest marine invasive species that we're facing in the Bahamas. Then we have pollution. We see that that's oil pollution. And then also overfishing, and that's just exploiting or taking too much of a marine species or not using it or taking it out when the season is closed. So I briefly do have a lot of educational aids that we supply the schools with, and this is just an example of one of our posters for mangroves that we would disperse to different schools all around the Bahamas. So this is just a summary. So we went over the characteristics of mangrove creeks. We described them and the 4 different species, which are red mangroves, black mangroves, buttonwood, and also white. And then also we list some of the examples of organisms. Then also we went over the tracks and we defined different zones. And so the strategies of how for people actually go with that next. And then- So, well, what can you do? So what you can do is support marine protected areas. Support marine protected areas. And that's just areas that just protect these areas so that they can continue to be a nursery system and continue to be the flood prevention systems. And what we can also do is participate in mangrove restoration and cleanup. One of our partners, that the Mangrove Alliance, they did, after Hurricane Dorian devastated the mangrove in Freeport, they did a mass mangrove planting. And we can also refuse single-use plastics, because the Bahamas has limited, recycling opportunities. A lot of our single-use plastics just accumulate in our dump. And then we can make sustainable food choices, and that can just look like just using some of the foods outside of the season. Like for example, when crawfish season is closed, it's probably just getting a different seafood alternative. And then also the 5 recycling with recycling as the last resort. Like I said, the Bahamas has limited recycling initiatives going on. So. And then also, we can also rethink our energy consumption choices. One of the biggest drivers of climate change is carbon emissions and greenhouse gases being emitted into the atmosphere. And that's through automobiles and, how we get most of our electricity. So just thinking about it and being more responsible on how we use our energy. And then also we can tell our leaders that we support renewable energy. It's good, it's cheaper, and it actually helps with the biggest issue, which is climate change. So, does anyone have any questions? That concludes my presentation for today. Yes.
Thank you, that was fascinating, huge fun. You guys did an amazing job. My question to a certain extent is based on a conversation we had earlier. Yes, there are lots of areas that are covered or protected by mangroves. What about all those thousands and thousands of beaches that are not protected by mangroves? Are they protected by reefs, I assume?
Yes.
So is that a separate arm of the route? So we need to get somebody else in to talk to us about that.
No, well, actually, our reefs are first line of protection when it comes to any type of wave energy or any type of storm surges. And what I tell people is, on the windward side of the island, we sometimes on a windy day, we see a line of waves just breaking at one point. That would be a barrier reefs actually breaking the wave energy before it reaches to the shore. And our mangrove would just be our second barrier to our coastline.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Not too long ago, they were, just wonder where we are now.
Well, a lot of persons, lionfish is very edible and it's very delicious. And we suggest telling people when you do go to the fish market, I went to the fish market the other day and I saw someone getting lionfish. From the consumer, side, you can ask and demand more for it. But right now, there isn't much places that you catch lionfish, but at Reef, we have a partner where we have a lionfish club and we give out prizes like largest lionfish, smallest lionfish, and then we also speak on how to properly handle it because it does have venomous spikes. But once you know how to properly handle it, it's very safe and it's very delicious.
Do we have any questions from those on Zoom?
Well, these are our social media handles. You can be more abreast of some of the projects and some of the programs we have ongoing. We do field trips, we have a sea program going on, and then we also have different platforms for kids to actually speak on different issues like this. So if you want to make a donation or see some of the programs, you can follow us at grief.org. Our website is being currently updated right now. Just give us about a week. But you can find us at grief.org. And all of our social medias are grief242. So thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking about mine.
Thank you very much, Jasmine, for the presentation. Well, as the enlightenment on microbes. I think they play a crucial role as it relates to protecting our coastal line from water, just even looking at that video. So as the water touch the first mangroves, at the time it gets to the rocks, the water is pretty still. So we are very important. Each mangrove, each mangrove plays an important part. I think each and every one of us can also play an important part in that regard as well. We all can stand. We'll have a four-way test.
Why don't we ask our lady over there who's just arrived to tell us about cultural life?
Come on, have there in it.
We went on the cruise, so there was a get together on something like
Good afternoon, everybody.
afternoon, we can't start.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it. That was the first time I did not know what to expect. I had not been in any conference, the district conferences yet, but that was an excellent introduction. Just getting to connect. And it was amazing to see how many Bahamians there were from other clubs, even in Inufer. Inufer had about 9 or 10 people on that table from Inufer. So the Bahamas was very well represented. The band that they had was excellent. It definitely depicted the Haitian culture, and the food was good. Fellowship food, next time I'm definitely gonna look into actually going into the conference. Yeah. But that was a very good taste of how the conference is and just the camaraderie of The various, I mean, a lot of, we got to meet, I mean, I actually got to take a picture. Debbie too, Debbie was there. Rotarian Debbie was there as well. So, we got to connect with her, very friendly, district governor. I'm sure they have a very, not even only friendly, but, full of energy. And, so we definitely enjoyed it. And actually, the other part of that was, the reason I went was actually to introduce the president and incoming president to our partner in Vision Health Expo. So they were excited because they finally got to meet Rhonda LeBlanc and the board of Rhonda's Eye Alliance. So we ended up doing a joint venture with them as well. So just to solidify the partnership that we've had, is they had never seen the board in person, like our presidents that are coming in. So they actually got to see past, present, and future. Chantel was there, past, Wayne, President Wayne's there, present, President incoming, Keena was there, and following was Francina. So she got to meet the next couple of years of presidents, which will allow Vision Health Expo to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Awesome stuff. Sound like rather good time on the cruise.
The next, it was a cultural night.
Sorry, cultural night. Free cruise. Understood. Yes, the Jamaica is going to be good, and then Bahamas will be better. So if you all can stand up for our four-way test. Welcome to join me saying the four-way test of the things we say, think or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair for all concerned? Is it good, friendship? Civil or all concerned? Not fun, not rotary. Right, and we'll now have our rotary host. Rotarian Deborah, mind leading the first please. Just a quick photo. Very quick. For
Fine, and then
They want to fall around.
Sorry for that.
I used to live in Coral Harbour for several years. Once Monday, an association and they used to clean the beach along there, and every month we go back and then every morning, garbage, every single month. We have
Yes, sir. I bought that from,
Yeah, let me take a picture now. Cause I trying to upgrade my stuff for my stuff.
I came with two microphones.
These things now, and I have my, it's coming, oh, it's coming through this.
Two those, right?
Oh, so there's the odds. We can use our one.
Yeah, the club had all kind of options. Get it? I can't remember what's the cost.
Oh, so that's what that is, okay. I think one thing, because really my company have a list, oh, and the second, somebody don't wait.
Don't wait, right?
So I say, you know what? Let me- I get, you know, for my company for the. Get it to Amazon or whatever, so they reach. Then I just bought a P7 Zoom Pontel camera, Osborne, Osborne, yeah. Yeah, I just bought one of them, so, and like you say, hook it in the computer, so.
I mean, this one's pretty decent. I mean, it's get the job done. It's not, it's in my phone when I got it. But the only thing is, but it works better with PC for some reason when
I just bought mine, yeah, I bought it, look it up. It's the best thing I ever did. I mean, I'll charge that, right? I'll put it in because I don't shut it off, right? And when I come back, I'll use it. When I come back, still at 85%. And I'm talking about 3-4 days.
Yeah.
I said, pull up my Surface Pro. I can leave that this afternoon. I come back,
Yeah.
charge it up fully, and it's still on 70. It dropped down to 70%. So you know, I just. Apple, watch and stuff. But I just get in, just let me try this market, all right? It's one of the sweetest
It's
pieces
different.
of equipment I've ever had, man.
And I'm not even, like I say, like real computer guy, but
But I mean, the things that they do and how I get going as a serial, man, may have to call the pop-up thing, put on my phone, put on.
right. So I still have Apple or that, even that.